Please give us a warm welcome to John.
This is our 45th year in business, and that was first started as a landscape design and landscape contracting company. And then in the early 2000s, we started John and Bob's business, which was born out of the practical aspects of being in business installing gardens and seeing problems and learning pretty quickly that the most important part of gardening and landscaping is soil. The vitality, the productivity, the ability of roses to bloom, the ability of roses and all plants to not have pests and disease is all directly connected to the soil. Even things that we don't know are connected to soil are connected to soil. Every pest and disease there's a natural mechanism in the soil to make sure you don't get that every year. This is just an example, and it's not directly related to roses, but it's the most powerful example that I run into every year, and that's fungus on cool season grasses. If they go to a nursery, the nursery will tell them, spray it with a fungicide. And if you spray it with a fungicide, it kills the bad fungus, also kills all the good fungi. And by killing the bad fungus and the good fungi, you pretty much guarantee that every year you're going to have the same problem, because the only way in a sustainable way to not get fungus on cool season grass in the summer is to grow good fungi that are way stronger than bad fungi. And if you're killing them with a fungicide, you're not going to have good fungi.
Is it effective on tomato worms?
There's nothing that I sell that you put on tomato worms and they die. But if you look into how the products work, what you'll find is you shouldn't get tomato worms if you're using our products properly. 70% of pests, including tomato worms, start in the soil. And if you have complex beneficial soil life, it will be eating those potential pests before they become pests. There's many ways that microbiology in soil prevents and defeats pests and disease, and that's one of them. If you have really healthy soil, I'm not going to say you'll never see another tomato worm, but you probably won't over time. Did you want to?
I have a question. Having grown up in your neck of the woods, the soil there versus the soil here is day and night. How do you adjust your product lines to accommodate the hard pan in the Central Peak Valley as opposed to the sand that we have here?
The interesting thing is, no matter what kind of soil you have, if let's say you have heavy clay soil with hardpan, what's the best way to change it? Really, the only way to change it is to engage the soil food web, fill it full of microbiological life, good bacteria, good fungi, good protozoa, good nematodes, and that will change everything about it. If you have sandy soil, what's the best way to change sandy soil? Infuse it with microbiological life, good bacteria, good fungi, good protozoa. You'll notice no matter what kind of soil you have, the answer is good quality compost. What we're attempting to do here is have the most beneficial parts of good quality compost in these boxes and bags so that you can apply them to your home gardens. The system is 4 products. The first one is Soil Optimizer. We call it Optimize. It feeds microbes. It collects micronutrients so that plants can use it. It does everything that organic matter does in your soil. You can apply it topically. In fact, all of these products, we would prefer you apply them topically, not mix them into the soil. Organic gardening has now changed thinking of this tilling all the time, which destroys these relationships between microbes that we want to develop. We don't want to be tilling and mixing the soil or physically disturbing it, so we discourage tilling, and instead we're using these products topically and then kind of being gentle with the soil. Sometimes you have to work in it, but you're not on a routine basis tilling through it.
John, would you explain the difference of humic acid versus, say, why humic acid versus this other? What's the difference?
It's kind of a difficult question to answer accurately, but let me try. There's not really like a difference between a Dr. Earth product and humic acid. Humic acid is an ingredient that Dr. Earth uses. You know, Dr. Earth has lots and lots of products. You can buy a Dr. Earth product for citrus, for azaleas, for dahlias, for, you know, for everything you're growing, a different product. They've kind of gone to this marketing practice that a lot of fertilizer companies use, which is specialized products. And if you look in their products, many of them have humic acid in them. What we're doing is completely different in that we're saying we don't really believe that's necessary. We believe what's necessary is healthy soil. We have a product that's almost exclusively humic acid because I think that gives you a really great value. Whereas you can't do that with any of those Dr. Earth products because there's all kinds of other things in there and you need a much bigger rate. I didn't really answer your question because I twisted it around a little because it's a hard question to answer. We have the best organic fertilizer I've ever used, and it's also plant-based. This is the bloom of cultured soybean meal and cottonseed meal, and the bloom is called mycelium. The mycelium is cut and dried, so this is dried mycelium that is not only really good to feed plants, really good to feed roses, but feeds the soil. You know, Miracle-Gro is the biggest selling fertilizer in the country, but it only feeds plants. I would prefer a fertilizer like Nourish Biosol that feeds plants and feeds the soil at the same time. And the whole idea of that is over time, you should be able to use less and less of it because you're going to build your soil in a way that the soil will be creating its own fertilizer. Yes?
Okay, I've got weeds in my grass. Any suggestion on how to dig them out?
Everybody has weeds in their grass. It's a big problem. Usually what people ask me is, I have weeds, how do I get rid of them now? And rather than focusing on the weeds, a healthy soil and a healthy lawn is the best way to get rid of weeds. Now, sometimes it's hard to get there because you already have weeds. You know, that question about pre-emergent applies to people with weeds in their lawn. But what I say is, let's give it a year. Let's do everything right for a year. Let's mow it properly, let's water it properly, let's feed the soil. And if you still have a weed problem, but after a year of doing that, then there are ways to get rid of the weeds. A lot of it depends on what the weeds are. Usually I ask people to send me a picture of it. A pre-emergent is one, or there are chemicals that I might recommend, but I think you'll be amazed by the results with proper mowing and regular mowing. Any other questions? Yes?
Does a pre-emergent hurt the soil?
Pre-emergents aren't good for soil, so your goal should be to not use them. But if you have to use them to solve this chronic problem, it's one of the better ways to solve a weed problem. You're probably talking about around roses, but in lawn or anywhere, pre-emergent is something that I say you use if you need to, and then you counter that by trying to build your soil as much as possible, use our products or someone's products, and look for opportunities not to have to use it. Some people just say, well, every year I use Dimension or whatever brand they use, and they don't really pay attention to whether they even need it. If you need a pre-emergent, use it, and then try to balance that by still building your soil, and don't ignore the needs of your soil. And then see if you can get off of the routine use of it. Just use it as needed, but make sure you monitor it, and if you have an opportunity, stop using it, because yeah, it's not good for soil. We started with the Optimize, and then we wanted to make it a complete system. Optimize doesn't have the living microbes I referred to, but Maximize does, and Penetrate Liquid Biotiller does. So Maximize is ground up basalt, which is like a lava deposit, mixed with a composted manure and mixed with mycorrhiza. I almost forgot that word because my daughter told me when I talk to groups, never say that word again because it loses the group. But probably rose gardeners know mycorrhiza. The most powerful, beneficial fungi that we know of that attaches itself to roots and does miraculous things for your plants. Yes?
I'm always confused
In the same aspect of me getting probiotics for my gut. Some
Yeah.
of them are in the fridge, some are in a pill on the shelf. It's a live thing, but it's in a bag and it's not getting air, or it's got little maybe air holes, but how is it still alive in the bag?
So it's dormant, I think, is the best way to explain it. Our products are all not in the refrigerator, except this one, we do put in the refrigerator because when it gets hot, it starts bubbling out of the containers. And when it bubbles out, that doesn't mean you shouldn't use it. It's,
No, it's good, it's
no,
alive.
it's fine. Yeah.
It's alive.
So it's just, if we keep it cool, it keeps it dormant. And the others, it's better not to have them in rooms over 100 degrees. It's better if they can stay, 50 to 80 degrees. There's a wide range, but even if they were to get very cold, they just go dormant. When it gets warm, they get active. And then we have Penetrate Liquid Biotiller, which is a liquid product, as you can tell by the name. It is beneficial bacteria and food for the bacteria, things like saponin and liquid humic acid. So this is the food, this is the bacteria. We keep them separate because we don't want them to get together until they go into your soil, because we don't want the bacteria to start eating the food. We want that to happen in your soil. So you mix these together in water, and you can spray them on with a hose-in sprayer or with a backpack sprayer. This box here treats 4,000 square feet. So that's the basis of the product line. Yeah.
Does dried molasses feed the soil?
Molasses does feed the soil, but it's mostly bacteria building. We used to use molasses in this. We kind of based the formulas of all these products on the work of a soil scientist named Dr. Elaine Ingham. And she was telling me that she felt there might be better ways to get to where we were trying to go rather than molasses, which she thought would make a too bacteria-dominated product. You don't want to favor one of the microbes over the other, particularly the lowest form, which is bacteria. But it's not like it's toxic or anything, and a lot of people use it, a lot of people believe in it. Yes, somebody raised their hand.
The question I
Yes.
had is, the liquid product that you have, do you put it on just on the ground, or do you put it on the roses also?
We're marketing it as to go on the soil, but you can spray it right on the rose. You'll find a lot of products that are being sold as pesticides that have similar bacteria that we have in this. I don't know if you were ever lucky enough to attend Steve Godot tomato seminar, but Steve was a good friend of mine and a big proponent of John and Bob's, and he told me that he had all these grasshoppers in his backyard on his tomatoes, and he sprayed them with Penetrate Liquid Biotiller, and he claims that they all went away. And maybe. And the only thing I'd warn you against is it's not just plain water. There's some substance to it. So if you spray it on really small seedlings, you can desiccate them, because you can cut, if they're really young, you spray it and it's hot. I dilute it a lot if I spray it on young seedlings. But over mature roses, it's good to spray it on the canes, even on the leaves. When I feed roses, what we do is we take the 3 dry products, Soil Optimizer, Nourish Biosol, and Maximize, and we have a mixture that we use on all our jobs. We use 1 part Soil Optimizer, 2 parts Nourish Biosol, 3 parts Maximize, so 1, 2, 3. It's easy to keep track of. We mix it together and we call it blend. And I use 3 cups of blend on a rose, like right after pruning. And depending on the success of the rose plant and the kinds of problems or the lack of problems that you have, I would probably do that same thing in the fall, but at least the one time right after pruning. And then I like to spray it with Penetrate Liquid Biotiller right over the root zone. And that is fantastic for roses. Many of you have probably already done this, but if you combine that with using, say, 2 inches of earthworm castings. We don't sell earthworm castings, but a good quality earthworm castings. That combination of blend, penetrate liquid biotiller, and earthworm castings is the best thing I've come across for minimizing pest and disease and maximizing vitality of rose plants and the blooms.
Is there any danger of overusage or burning or
That's another really neat thing about it. I suppose, if you put a pile of something, but in general, you can't over-apply it. And really, the more the better. What we've tried to come up with is rates that give you good value. What's the smallest amount you can put on there and get the best result, the biggest result? You could put it on once a month if you wanted to. On all of these bags, we're recommending only twice a year. But yeah, you can't overuse it, and you'll see that frequently with synthetic products, that a lot of home gardeners damage lawn and plants with synthetic fertilizer, which is pretty easy to do when it's hot and impossible to do with any of these products. Even if you don't water it, you could apply Nourish Biosol and then don't water it for a month. It won't obviously go to work because water activates it, but it doesn't burn anything.
Yes, I use your products, but when I trim my roses back, I use neem oil on it. Am I killing what I'm
Neem oil's
building?
fine. No, I don't think you're killing anything. We have a product called Rose and Soil Defender, which has got a bunch of botanicals in it. And the whole premise of our products is similar to neem oil in that all of them are organic pesticides. The idea of them is you don't have to be so worried about using them because they're good for the soil. They're actually good for the plant. They're not as powerful as if you used some pesticide or as if you used a Preemergent. It kills that weed. This is a little more subtle in its effectiveness, but we know we're building the soil while we're fighting. What are you applying the neem oil for? What's the problem you have?
Usually at the end, if there's,
So just general.
Just general, just so
And-
that
and-
there's no bacteria or,
I-
fungus or anything on this
Yeah,
plant.
I just have a general knowledge of neem oil, and my general knowledge tells me that's okay. I think everybody asked a question, so we're probably about done.